Hello and welcome to the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. Rachael is a speaker, inspirational author, and an overcomer. As Rachael is walking through her own journey of grief, she's challenging others to persevere and overcome their own circumstances. Find out more at rachaelflick.com. Here now is your host, Rachael Flick.
Hey everybody, welcome back to this week's episode of the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. Today I'm interviewing fellow widower Davy Blackburn. Davy lost his wife Amanda and their unborn daughter in November of 2015. On last week's episode, Davy and I were talking about what it looks like to grieve as a man and a woman and some of the things and the resources that they have available. And the ministry that has developed out of what he lost and what the Lord is redeeming and bringing back. Davy, welcome back to this week's episode. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Rachael. I'm excited to continue our conversation.
Yeah, it's been really rich, and I'm prayerful for the people listening that it's going to be healing for them too. So on last week's episode, we were talking about some of the pitfalls that are really normal that people fall into in loss, and just because avoiding pain is such a natural human process. And so can you kind of pick that up with me?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we talked about the pitfall of not wanting to address the painful emotions and avoiding or numbing or coping or whatever your defense mechanism is in that. It's all kind of coping mechanisms. The other one that I find too, particularly with widows and widowers, is trying to become content and comfortable in the season of loneliness. I think that this was a big one for me because I think you loneliness reemerges in your life in a way that it hasn't before. You know, layered on top of this loss, you now are feeling the void of, you know, especially if your marriage was wonderful, right? And you had this wonderful partner and there was this best friend element.
Yeah, you guys did not choose to end your relationship.
Exactly. So now you're just feeling this gaping hole in your life. And it's the practical stuff, absolutely, especially if you're in a season of parenthood and you're trying to figure out, but it's the connectedness.
Yeah.
Right. It's the feeling of oneness that you experience. And scripture says that you become one flesh. And so when you get married, you feel like one. And then when you experience the loss of your spouse, you feel like half.
Yeah. A very ragged half, a very jagged. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not clean at all. Not a parting.
So the temptation is to fill that loneliness with other things. And I actually believe that loneliness is a gift to us. And that sounds weird, but I think
Tell me more.
I think that loneliness is an invitation. I think any of the negative emotions that we experience is an invitation from God to step into a deeper intimacy and healing with him. So I think those are the things that emotions tell us. Emotions can't guide us, right? But they are a gauge for us. Does that make sense? So they don't tell us where to go. They tell us where we're at.
Exactly.
So when we experience negative emotions, especially in Christian circles, we're like, well, you're not supposed to feel anger. It's like, well, that's not what the Bible says. It says in your anger, don't sin. So, you know, implicit within that is that we're going to feel anger.
Mm-hmm.
The question is what do you do with that anger?
Yeah.
And how do you, what's the invitation in that anger? What's it telling us? What is it leading us to? Loneliness is the same thing. It's an invitation from God to step into a deeper intimacy with him. And so I think that a lot of times we try to escape or avoid the loneliness, and that can turn into whether it's busying yourself with all kinds of activity so that you don't feel it, right. Whether it's trying to immerse yourself in relationships. I see a lot with widows and widowers and I'm not talking about dating relationships. I'm just talking about friendships. You find circles and spaces of people sometimes that just are not maybe the strong, safe people, the edifying, fortifying people that you should. It's almost like you kind of escape into these places where you're like, these are not the type of people I would normally ever choose to be around or, you know, set up camp with. But for some reason, they just help distract me. You know, I'm just going to throw it all to the wind right now because I'm just mad at God or I feel lonely or whatever. Right. So we've seen that in people. But then also when it comes to dating and trying to figure out that timeline, everybody's timeline is different. There's no one right way to do it.
Yeah.
There's 1,000 wrong ways to do it.
Yeah, that's a great way to put that.
And so And so I think that initially you have to be self-aware enough and have safe people around you to say, maybe I'm only pursuing or putting myself out there to date again because I'm feeling lonely.
Mm,
And it's a very real feeling.
yeah.
I'm not unvalidating that feeling. It's very real, but I want to extend an invitation to you the same way God is, to take those places of loneliness and ask God, what are you trying to teach me in this loneliness? How are you trying to further galvanize my identity in you? Because now
Yeah.
I've got a broken identity because I was one with somebody else.
Yeah.
Now I feel half, and so I'm not who I thought I was. And so now I need to re-galvanize that identity in Christ before I can step into serving somebody else in any other kind of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Great relationships across the board happen when you come to the table. What can I give, not what can I get?
Yeah.
Oftentimes we're trying to get something to satiate something or fill some kind of void in our lives because of this loneliness. And that's for everybody, but it's exacerbated in settings of widowhood.
It is.
And so I read a book called The Path of Loneliness by Elizabeth Elliot 2 months after Amanda was killed, and it is phenomenal. I'm watching right now, Rachel, reaching. Yep, there it is.
I got this because I listened to you. I'm holding the book up right now in front of Davey. I hate this book. I'm trying so hard. So tell me more about why I need to keep going.
Well, the premise of the book is amazing. Elizabeth Elliot's story is incredible because she lost her first husband, and a prolific story. Most people are going to know this story if you dive into a little bit more. Jim and Elizabeth Elliot, you can go and Google it and read the story. She lost her second husband in a battle of cancer.
Right.
So one, an immediate abrupt tragedy of essentially murder, and then the next one was a battle of cancer. So she's experienced the gamut.
She lost her third husband as well before she passed. I can't imagine.
Right. But she's writing this book between her second and third husband.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the book too is her talking with a friend of hers that was experiencing a divorce. And so they're kind of musing on this idea of loneliness in the two different spaces that those, two situations kind of bring about. And it was just really fascinating to me how Elizabeth Elliot has always been someone that's been such a hero of mine because she has continually rooted herself in the things of God, in her identity in Christ. And you can't serve other people well if you need people to fill something for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if you're wanting to, and you're desiring to be, and not everybody is, unfortunately, but if you're desiring to be a kingdom warrior, right? Someone who's building the kingdom, who is helping people, who is bringing people into a gospel kingdom, then you have to have your identity rooted in Christ, so that nothing shakes you, right?
Yeah.
Nothing ends up knocking you off kilter from that kingdom perspective. And it's that kingdom perspective that carries us. It's the anchor for our soul that carries us. It's Jesus walking with us in that. And so I was so inspired by Elizabeth Elliot's words. And then one of the things that she said that has just carried me, she says, she talks about the gain of loss, which is a paradox, right?
Mm-hmm.
But she says that what you gain in relationship to the giver far outweighs the loss of the gift.
Can you say that one more time?
What you gain in relationship to the giver far outweighs the loss of the gift.
Wow.
And that was after someone asked her, "Hey, would you change your life story if you could? Would you undo all of this?" And she was like, I never would have asked for it, but I would not change it either because my relationship with the Lord is so much stronger. And that is ultimately the only thing that can fully and finally satisfy me.
Mm-hmm.
No marriage, no friendship, nothing can satisfy the deepest parts of our soul. We have a God-sized hole in our heart that can only be filled by Jesus.
Mm.
So in these spaces where things have been removed from us for circumstantially, for whatever reason, right? When we find ourselves, things are withdrawn or removed from us or withheld from us, and we feel these feelings of loneliness, it's an invitation for the Lord to say, let me be the one to fill you. Because I'll fill you way more and overflow your cup more than anybody else can.
Yeah.
And then you're able to step into any relationship and serve and love and find fulfillment there.
So that was actually one of the questions that I wanted to ask you, is that pain shapes our character.
Yeah.
And I want to know what God developed in you through the loss of Amanda. What did he bring forward in you?
I think one of the things is a deep empathy, for people, just even like when we first got on our last episode, and you shared some of your story with me, I felt it. Like I felt it in my heart and in my gut. And I, as a pastor, even before that, and walking with people in pain, I wouldn't have felt it. I
Right.
wouldn't have, like, truly understood and known what you've walked through. Now, when I hear you say I lost my husband in the line of duty, I know all of the story in between that of what you've had to deal with and wrestle with, and so I can empathize with you. And that just, empathy is just one of the markers of being a great human being. You know, it's
Yeah.
just being someone who looks outside of themselves, isn't navel gazing and says, how can I just walk alongside other people and serve them and love them? And so, there are definitely spaces in all of our lives, and it would be true of me too, that I was a lot more self-centered, a lot more self-focused. And pain has brought me out of that navel gazing in a lot of ways. Now, do I have a ways to go? Absolutely. We all do, right? Well, it was John the Baptist. He said, I must decrease and he must increase. And that's pervasively the life prayer for all of us. Is just, we've got to become less and less, and Jesus has to become more and more. But I think pain does something where if you let God transform your heart in it, it will, as my counselor said, it will perfect you in love. Right? It
Yeah.
will perfect you in love. You begin to love other people in a lot deeper way.
It's a teacher. Pain is a teacher, if you allow it to be.
It really is. This is Isaiah 30 tells us this. It says, though we give you the water of adversity and the bread of affliction. Actually, I think I flip-flop those. I think it's bread of adversity and water of affliction.
Either way, it's tough.
It says, though he gives it to you, right? Either way, it is not fun. It says, though he gives it to you, your teacher will hide himself no more. So implicit within that is this idea, there's a season of pain that God's allowing into your life, but in the season of pain, the teacher, big T teacher, will not hide himself. And sometimes we think the mysteries, we're like, God seems so mysterious and I don't understand him. But when you walk through pain and you lean into the Lord and you take those invitations that he's extending to you, he shows more of himself to you. You get almost like backstage access into the character and nature of God. He doesn't hide himself anymore. He shows you more, and you're like, oh my gosh. And he's revealing all these things, these mysteries of God to you. It says he will be a voice whispering in your ear, this is the way, walk in it. And to me, that's so refreshing that he's going to teach me new things about himself. And if I learn more about his character and nature, then I change. I cannot not change, right? Like I can't avoid changing when I encounter him on a deep level like that. And then he's also going to give me direction. Is what Isaiah 30 promises us. And so I believe that, man, for me, he is just, this tragedy has shaped me in so many ways. And having to work through trauma has made me more self-aware, has made me more introspective on things, has made me go, what is it like to be on the other side of me? Because I've seen the ugly side of me. I've seen what happens when pressure comes into my life. I call them some seasons of life, where what life squeezes you, what comes out of you is what was in you.
Yes.
I didn't like some of the things I saw. And so it made me go, man, what's deep down inside there that needs to get refined?
So I'm a total Enneagram nerd.
Okay.
Are you a 3?
I am, yeah. A 3 and 4.
Okay. All right. So for our listeners, it's in the heart triad.
It is.
But it's one that is, of the 3 numbers, the least connected to their feelings.
Correct.
And also the achiever, the performer, right? And so I wonder, like, in just the way that God made you, and then also pain, right? Like that feeling to perform, to hide, to cover, to make it look like it's, going better than it really is. But you're saying pain has caused you to be courageous enough to be introspective. Yeah.
Yeah. And some of that, my wing 4 counterbalances some of that, because the 4 is the ultimate introspect, right? One who just dives into, in a lot of ways, an unhealthy way. I don't mind sitting in melancholy. And so I definitely have a strong leaning toward the 4 that helps to counterbalance that. But you're absolutely right. I think the thing about the 3, if someone speaks Enneagram language, that I still wrestle with quite a bit, just to be very vulnerable. But I think that the aftermath of tragedy and loss and what has ensued after it has brought to light in me is that I realized that my deepest fear is to not be loved. Right. My deepest fear is ultimately to fail. Right. I don't want to,
Yeah.
but like, there's something about not being like being misunderstood
Hmm.
or being, there's like a deep desire to be loved, which is my namesake is beloved of God, David.
Mm,
And so I'm seeing this as part of my identity. And so what happens with my 3 is that I think that if I achieve and if I perform, then I'm worthy of love.
yeah.
But if I don't, then I'm not worthy of love. That
Hmm.
there can't be somebody that loves me, for just who I am, like the bad, the good, the bad.
Right.
The ugly. And so what happened when I lost Amanda in that season in between, I wrestled with that a ton
Hmm.
because she was the one that knew me inside and out and still loved me and accepted me. And so in
Yeah.
the season of singleness where it was like, do they really care and love me is it because I'm now helping people, and so that it's because I give them something now. That's why they love me, or because I've decided to write this blog, and so now it's like, wow, look at him, what a great role model in walking through suffering. That's why they love me, or is like, do they really love? You know what I mean? And that's
Yeah.
truly the only place that you can find satisfaction in that is understanding that you are beloved of God,
Hmm.
that He loves you.
Yeah. I think pain brings out, like you said, it reveals you. That pressure, that heat is refining. And I've definitely learned a lot about myself in pain that I can't pretend it's not there.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And I know if you put me in the furnace, I'm like, oh, this is in there, and just I respect you for being willing to share that, because I think especially with the platform piece, because it was, it made national news
right,
for Amanda, and so did Micah's. And it's kind of like everybody's watching you handle it,
right,
you know, and everybody has an opinion about how you handle it.
right,
And that's a ton to add on to grief and loss. And that's not a piece that everybody is going to resonate with, the public piece and the platform. But we all have people in our lives who are watching our loss and going through it with us. And just to, at the end of the day, and I will say, the end of the day is the hardest part for me. It's when everything's quiet. That would have been time that I would have spent with Micah. And so it's like, man, I got to get real with Jesus, at the end of the day, and bring those things to him. And I'm okay because of who he is,
right, right,
and because he made me worthy, and not how I'm handling it, or how I screwed up that day, or, the emotional availability I didn't have for my children and their grief, right? Like, I mean, I can, count the ways of how I'm not doing grief as well as I wish that I did, and just owning that before the Lord.
that's so good. Phew, that's so good. What's your type? Do you
I'm
know?
an 8 wing 9.
8-wing 9. Okay.
Yes, I am the bear and the
Right,
challenger.
the bear. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. We're very like forward focused. And you guys are better with people than we are in general, the three.
Yes, I wish I was that direct. It's like, I really wish I could be as direct as you. Maybe we should package this a little bit, so it lands a little softer.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, it is really nice the way that you came back around to that person and appreciated that. Yeah, absolutely. My threes in my life add a lot and teach me a lot about, just that caring for people, which is so interesting, that the opportunity in trauma and loss to then come around people, right? To
Yeah,
comfort people with the comfort that we have been given. And I agree that pain has made me far less judgmental. Like, I grew up in the church. I went to church 8 days a week. I was an Awana kid, Christian school kid, and I really thought I had it figured out,
right.
and when Micah died, I had to go back through my Rolodex of beliefs about God and the world and examine every single one,
Yep.
and realize that some of those were prosperity gospel, right? Like, if I love the Lord, if I serve him well, I have a protected life. like you said in last week's episode. And um, it's humbled me at
Yeah.
a very deep level of like, I know my weaknesses.
Yep.
I can't fake it. Like I know what's in there if you burn me. And I also know that I am where I am exclusively because of the grace of God. Every good thing is his.
That's so good. Yeah, it goes back to that empathy thing. Now I can see why people would make self-destructive decisions
Hmm.
in the midst of pain, that unravel their life.
Hmm.
Before I'd be like, what's wrong with you, man?
Yeah.
Why would you? I'd sit in counseling sessions. I'm counseling as a pastor, be like, dude, just get it together.
Right.
And now I'm like, no, I can absolutely see why somebody would go down that route, because
Yeah.
I had a lot of those same temptations. And
Hmm.
what is the saying? But for the grace of God, or ergo I.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Pride comes before a fall. Like if I think I have it all together, I better watch out. And I just, but that it's so interesting because that vulnerability and that humility has actually expanded the ability of God to work through my life.
That's right.
I really believe that vulnerability it creates almost like an electrical current
It does.
that God can funnel through, and that we're not in the way.
Right.
We're not standing there like, oh, I've got this together, or I have this education, or, I went to Bible school, or whatever the thing is that we might say. And because that for me as an 8, my biggest worst fear is vulnerability.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I'm like, got, national news places bringing baskets trying to hear my story like 4 days after my husband is murdered. And I'm like, I'm going under a rock and I'm hiding, and I don't want to be seen, and I don't want to be seen ugly. I don't want to be seen broken. I don't want to be seen hurting. And it's forced me in a beautiful way to open my heart to safe people to share my story with that I never would have allowed in that deep way. And so because I have done that, it's created space for the Lord to expand me and what he can do through me.
Yeah, that's so good. He increases your capacity for so many things when you go through pain,
Mm-hmm.
It's like Psalm 23 also talks about how you make my cup overflow, right on the back end of this. So it's like after the valley, there's something about your cup overflowing. Well, I think that there's also a emptying of your cup in pain first, right?
Yeah.
You'll just completely empty and deplete. And what God is doing in that is he's emptying you and I of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's like, hey, I want to serve up healing food, healing water. And I've got to empty you of you, because you can't do this. And so then he always fills us back up with him. As we're willing to be emptied and cleaned out by him, he fills us back up with him. But he does more than just fill us up. He overflows our cup.
Yeah.
And what that does when your cup, if you're holding it out, overflows, what does it do? It flows onto other people's cups. So he uses what he does through our life to fill other people up as well. And that's not possible if we are not willing to step into and lean into the humility of what pain brings into our life. Scripture tells us he resists the proud, gives grace to the humble. It says, humble yourself before God, and in due time he will lift you up. And I think it's because he wants us to walk around more with a limp, right? Like the image of Jacob wrestling with God, and he blesses him but breaks his hip at the same time. So there's a broken hip and then a blessing that he gives him. It's like he broke him and healed him and then blessed him all at the same time and changed his identity. There's this rapid succession of things that happens in our journey with God.
Oh my gosh, that's so powerful.
And then Jacob walks around with a limp for the rest of his life. Well, who was Jacob before that? He was a deceiver. He was a heel grabber, is what his name says. He was trying to get and strive after everything that he could possibly for his own gain and his own self. And then God's like, I like that chutzpah. I like that about you, that you have the tenacity to do it. But I want to channel that. I've got to break you first. And then I'm going to change you through that brokenness, because I want you walking around with a limp, not a swagger. And I want people looking at you going,
it's like a hashtag right there. Yeah. That'll preach.
I want people going, man, if God can do that through that man's life or through that woman's life, what could he do in mine? And that's where the reality of Scripture says, in our weakness, his strength is made perfect.
Yeah.
People see us and they don't see us anymore. They see Jesus. And there's a blessing in that for us where our brokenness becomes a blessing for other people. And then, man, our identity has changed. Now it's not Jacob, the heel grabber.
Yeah.
It's not the deceiver, the supplanter. It's the Israel, one for whom God wrestles.
Wow.
God is fighting on your behalf now because you are placing yourself in submission and humility to him. And then, boo, it exceeds way more than what we could ever ask or imagine when he fights our battles.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. I'm like, how many more episodes can we do? I just need a couple more. So you said something a long time ago in an episode, and you said God had said he wanted to not just redeem your story, but he wanted to use you to redeem someone else's story.
Oh yeah. 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 I think I say that sometimes in reference to remarriage, to marry Christy. And I think that's the thing about redemption is a lot of times when we experience loss, we go, okay, God, well, you owe me now. What are you going to bring back into my life? We think about like, how does he restore, which he does. Like he promises to restore. He promises, Proverbs says he will make the thief repay sevenfold what he has stolen from you. That's a good promise. But there's the restoration of all things doesn't necessarily happen in this part of the story. In the narrative, the meta narrative of history and scripture, right? He promises he will restore all things, that he will wipe away every tear. There's no more pain, no more. But there's redemption in the middle of that. And redemption is not when he brings things back into your life. Redemption is when you decide to allow your pain to be used to help other people in their pain. I was trapped in that, like, God, what are you going to do for me? You got to you got to restore back to me. And then Christy came into my life. And it was this beautiful, amazing thing, this story that God was writing. I was intrigued by her. She was attending our church. But then the first conversation that we had, she began to kind of share some stuff about her and her life. And I found out she was intricately connected to our story in that her stepdad is a chaplain for the Marion County prison system. And he was sharing the gospel with the 3 guys who had killed my wife.
Yeah, that's a divine appointment.
There's no such thing as coincidence in God's kingdom. God is weaving our paths together for a time such as this. And so we started dating and ultimately we ended up getting married at the end of 2017. And as we've both journeyed together, we kind of categorize it where I went through big T trauma, this major tragedy. I had a great upbringing growing up and this major tragedy, but she went through all these little T traumas growing up, things. If you can listen to her story on our podcast, Nothing Is Wasted, episode 100, she shares an hour and a half of her entire story, things that like, you're like, I can't believe you went through all this stuff. But what we've realized is that God put us together so that we could kind of be some of the final healing touches on each other's life.
Wow.
And that ultimately my redemption was not just about me. It was about her as well and helping her to experience healing, and her redemption and healing was not just about her. It was helping me. I think that's the beautiful thing that God does. We didn't come to each other broken and needing each other. In fact, she was talking to her grandmother, I think. And her grandmother was like, I'm looking at her right now. She's in the corner of the room as we're working, but she was talking to her grandmother. Her grandmother goes, she was like, I don't want him to be a crutch for me. And I don't want to be a crutch for him. And her grandmother goes, oh, sweetheart, you guys aren't going to be crutches for each other. You're going to be each other's leaning post.
Wow.
And there's a difference there because you can step into a relationship and it be a crutch if we don't do what we talked about earlier, right? Or you can step into a relationship and you lean on each other. And where she's weak, I'm strong, and vice versa. Where I'm weak, she's strong. And there's this beautiful puzzle piece. I look at what I shared with her when we were getting engaged, is I shared with her that the first conversation that we had that was a deep conversation about pain, where we're sharing there's kind of the deep recesses of our heart and what we've dealt with. I felt understood. She felt understood. I'm like, somebody finally gets it. But we were laying our broken pieces of our life out on the table at Chick-fil-A of all places.
Did you have your kids? Was this a date?
Like you guys go play. And we're like shutting Chick-fil-A down. They're sweeping on their feet. Like, when are these guys going to leave? And our kids are like, we're tired. We're like, shut up, go play. So it was that we were laying our broken pieces of our lives out on the table. But those broken pieces, as we looked at them, weren't broken pieces. They were puzzle pieces. This big story that God was writing. And we're like, God, I don't know what you're doing in this, but we submit to your kingdom work in this, and we will eventually, we said, we will give the rest of our lives to helping other people in their pain, as difficult as it is, because we both know what it looks like to experience that. And we want people to understand ultimately that God has a redemption story for you. While that might not mean that you're getting remarried, redemption was not when I remarried or when I married Christy. Redemption began when we said, okay, we're going to turn this pain around to help other people in theirs. That's when you're taking power away from the enemy.
Yeah.
That's what redemption is. The enemy no longer has a say in your life. Why? Because of the power of the resurrection of Jesus. And it's that power of the resurrection of Jesus that lives in you if you are a believer. And that is when we partner with God and we step into his invitation to take back our story, that's when redemption begins.
That is so good. This is ministering to me just listening to you. Okay, so I have a question that is, you and I will understand this, but the listeners, I think, can benefit a lot from hearing this. So when you are widowed, you never stop loving your first spouse, right? Like you still love Amanda. I still love Micah.
Yep.
And 20 years, 40 years down the road, that will still be the case. And so what does Christy do in your relationship now when you get smacked with a grief wave in this relationship that you're at now?
Such a great question. And that's it, the reality of what you just said is so true. And that's right. That's part of the whole equation of this. You know, I think a lot of people who haven't experienced it, they think it's an either or. It's like a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
Like, well, you're remarrying, and so that means you don't love your late wife anymore. And that's I understand where they're coming from because they just don't understand. And that's okay. We can agree to not understand. But if we can inform you, when you walk through this, you walk into a paradox.
Yeah.
Where it's not either or, it's both and you hold these two things in tension. And I think that is one of the things we talk about in the Pain to Purpose course is the importance of just holding tensions and walking in the paradox of and, right? I love Amanda. I always will. I will always cherish the times that we had. I will always feel connected to her. And I love Christy. And I feel so bonded and connected with her, and to an even greater capacity than what I had for the season that I was feeling connected to Amanda. That does not mean I love either one of them more. It just means I have a greater capacity to love, because I've walked through deep, dark pain, and just as it expanded my capacity. I thought I had all there was to love. There's like, you got the whole pie of it. That's it. That's all I got right here, you know?
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, my pie's bigger. My love's bigger. And so it's different. It's not more or greater or lesser or whatever. It's just different. And to walk in the reality of that and is something that a lot of people aren't comfortable with. Right. But you realize it when you walk through loss. So some of the things that Christy does is she allows space for that and. So if I have a trigger or if I have something that is overtaking me, now she can recognize it. She sees it. She knows me well enough that she can kind of recognize my countenance or my demeanor. She'll go, hey, you okay? You know, talk to me about this. And she invites it. She asks me. She allows space for me to talk about it openly and vulnerably with her. That's one of the things I've so admired about Christy is that I can be very open and vulnerable. She holds space for that like I've never seen anybody else.
That's beautiful.
She's a 7, so she's all head. That's what it has to do with.
Pain avoider. That's amazing.
All in the head, right? And so she's like able to hold space in those like really traumatic moments where she's very clear-headed.
Okay.
But she's also a PA, a medical professional. Okay. But I just think it's her heart too, where she says, huge. Hey, I want to step in this with you because I know what it's like to grieve and to experience those things. And we've made that part of an MO of our relationship is that no matter how difficult it might be for me to hear certain things about her past, I'll hold that space because that's important for us to galvanize this thing and vice versa. So I'll never forget the first time she let me do that. She could tell we were dating. We're sitting on the couch. We're listening to Sleeping at Last.
Oh gosh.
That happens to be the theme song, theme music for our podcast. And
love it.
It was very much a part of a lot of our dating life was just listening to Sleeping at Last, kind of getting in those. Anyways, we're sitting there listening to it. She goes, hey, what's going on? You just seem a little off. And I just took a risk. I was like, I don't know if I can share this with you or not, but this is what's really, I'm struggling with this right here. And the moment she held space for that, she's like, tell me more about that. I just lost it. It was like this beautiful, horrific moment. It was like
the ugly cry.
Oh, I'm like holding this in, and yet this is so amazing that you're letting me do this. And she just held me, and then she gave me some really great wisdom.
Yeah,
and I was like, wow, I need you in my life. And so that's huge for her to do that.
I think that I see a lot of widows seeking relationship, and they'll find someone who is threatened by the love of the late spouse. And I think that has to be a deal breaker when you have lost your spouse, that if you're going to find love again, that person has to be on board for, whatever that looks like, whether that's, an ugly day, anniversary pain, celebrating their birthday, right? Like whatever you need to do to continue to heal and to honor, Amanda as Weston's mom, and those relationships that will be maintained. And so I hear that great depth and capacity and wisdom in Christy.
Yeah. Yeah. And she encourages me to share more. There are times that I've even been like hesitant because of just maybe assuming or projecting some feelings onto her. Like maybe I shouldn't share this about Amanda in our ministry or on our platform or on my social media or something like that. And she's like, no, you need to share that kind of stuff. A, it's good for you. 2, it's helpful to other people.
Yeah.
People need to hear. They need to hear the difficulties of wading through all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So, that's been really helpful, is just to know there's freedom there.
I'm so glad that you guys found that in each other, because that really is a gift.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Davey, this interview today has been beautiful. It's been powerful. It's been healing for me. I'm going to take my Path of Loneliness book and I'm going to read the next chapter. And I'm just so grateful for your ministry and everything that you are doing, that nothing truly is wasted.
Thank you, Rachael. This has been so great to have this conversation with you. Even just being able to share things that I don't normally get to share. And you ask some questions that a lot of people don't ask. And it's just fun to be able to have a conversation. And I'm praying this really helps your listeners as they're wading through this and they feel hopeful. It's the Hopecast. I love the name of that. And that's exactly what you're doing. So I'm proud of you. Keep going.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Will you tell the listeners again about that retreat that you and Daniel facilitate?
Yeah. So it's a young widowers. Actually, it's all widowers. At first it was young, and then we decided to open it up to everybody, but Refuge Widowers Retreat. Right now, I don't know the name of the website off the top, but if you Google Refuge Widowers Retreat, or if you look up Daniel Brooker or myself on Instagram, you'll be able to follow when we start publicizing about that. And then again, if you want 21 days of devotion sent to your email inbox, we're releasing a 42-day devotional book coming up in July. And so, but this will get you on those notifications if you want that. If you just 21 days in your email inbox, just text to 66866, text the word NIW, or those letters NIW to 66866.
Yeah. And everybody, I just can't say enough good things about Davey's podcast, the Nothing is Wasted podcast. You need to hop on Apple Podcasts and go find it and subscribe, because it is just such an incredible resource. And the stories of resilience and hope and overcoming are just, they're not of this world, and they're really a gift to anyone, and especially people who are struggling and hurting. Thank you so much for being here today, Davey. Everybody, this has been this week's episode of the Hopecast with Rachael Flick, and part 2 of my interview with Davey Blackburn. Praying that you're blessed and looking forward to connecting with you soon. You can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and pretty much everywhere else. And drop me a message if you want to talk more about today's content at contact@rachaelflick.com.
You've been listening to the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. To find out more, go to rachaelflick.com. While you're there, you can book Rachael for your next speaking engagement. Her inspiring message will be sure to engage and touch the heart of your audience at your next conference, church event, or business function. Go to rachaelflick.com to book her today. While you're online, you can discover more information about all of the platforms that this podcast is on. Also, be sure to click on the social media icons at the top of the page, and you will be directed to Rachael's social media sites. If you listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, we would appreciate if you would subscribe and leave us a review. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time for another edition of the Hopecast with Rachael Flick.